Hey, how's it going? I'm your host Bridget Shields, and let's take a look at the top 10 actors who had their roles stolen from them. Number 10, Rachelle Lefevre. One of the biggest villains of the Twilight saga was replaced partway through the franchise. Victoria Sutherland, who spends most of the first two movies hunting Bella Swan, was originally played by Canadian actress Rachelle Lefevre, but by the third movie Eclipse in 2010, fans noticed that Victoria was being played by an entirely different actress, Bryce Dallas Howard. It turns out that there was a lot of drama behind the decision, as Rachelle herself was shocked when she was fired. She told Entertainment Weekly in 2009, quote, "I was stunned by Summit's decision to recast the role of Victoria for Eclipse. I was fully committed to the Twilight saga and to the portrayal of Victoria. I turned down several other film opportunities and, in accordance with my contractual rights, accepted only roles that would involve very short shooting schedules." She went on to say that Summit dropped her because of a 10-day overlap where she had a scheduling conflict, but the studio was quick to deny this on their part and came out saying that the actress decided not to tell them about her other work commitments until the very last moment. Although it would have been great to see Rachelle as Victoria for the last film, many fans agree that Bryce certainly gave it her all. Number 9, Terrence Howard. The first Iron Man film really ushered in the age of Marvel and paved the way for many iconic superhero movies to come. The 2008 movie launched Robert Downey Jr. into superstar status for playing Tony Stark along with his co-star Terrence Howard, who played Rhodey. But the massive success of the franchise paid off for everyone except Howard, who insisted that he got screwed over after the first movie took off, claiming producers wanted him to take a massive pay cut for the sequel because they believed it would be successful with or without him. Unfortunately, they were right, and Don Cheadle was recast as Tony Stark's right-hand man ever since. It's safe to say that Howard was not happy at all and took it out on Robert Downey Jr. on Watch What Happens Live. Quote, "It turns out that the person I helped become Iron Man, when it was time to re-up for the second time, he took the money that was supposed to go to me and pushed me out." He went on to say that when the studio approached him for the second movie, they told him, "Look, we will pay you 1/8 of what we contractually had for you because we think the second one will be successful with or without you." That was when Howard called Robert Downey Jr., only to be practically ghosted. That was pretty shady, but MCU fans seemed totally fine with the swap, as it was clear that Don Cheadle brought a lot to the character. Number 8, Crispin Glover. The actor was cast as George McFly, the father of Back to the Future's main character Marty. Following the blockbuster's popularity, plans for the sequel were already being put in motion, and the previous cast was getting called back. But from the very beginning of salary negotiations, Glover was unable to reach an agreement with the producers. Essentially, he asked for too much money to be involved in the script, and when the studio refused his request, the script was restructured in order to keep the character on screen as little as possible, and he was replaced by actor Jeffrey Wiseman, who actually had to wear makeup to resemble Glover. Not only that, but the filmmakers used stills of him from the first movie and did everything they could to get the original actor's image in there, so without his permission they essentially used his likeness, which led the actor to file a lawsuit claiming that they had used his image without his consent, and he still criticizes their decision to this day. Quote, "They stole something from me, and it's illegal to steal something. It's really that simple. Bob Gale is quite literally a thief, no exaggeration." So it's clear that Glover still carries a lot of that frustration with him even now. Number 7, Ryan Gosling. It's really hard to imagine that the actor got fired from a film set and replaced 2 days before production started, but that is exactly what happened. Ryan Gosling was set to star in Peter Jackson's film adaptation of The Lovely Bones as Susie's father, alongside Saoirse Ronan and Stanley Tucci. It was a very heavy role because his character's daughter is brutally murdered in the beginning of the film, and he has to overcome his immense grief to try and find the perpetrator. So naturally, Gosling believed that his character, Jack Salmon, should have a certain appearance to convey his level of grief, and decided to gain weight for the role. But it turns out the filmmakers weren't happy when he put on 60 pounds. He explained his vision in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. Quote, "We had a different idea of how the character should look. I really believed he should be 210 pounds. He even went as far as drinking melted Haagen-Dazs ice cream to prepare for the role and was completely dedicated to nailing the part. In the end, when Gosling showed up on set, he was pretty much dropped from the film and replaced 2 days before production by none other than Mark Wahlberg." Number 6, Megan Fox. Her role in the first 2 films of the live-action Transformers franchise helped catapult her to a new level of stardom, but she didn't get to stick around for the whole series. The third Transformers film from Michael Bay proved to be a milestone for the franchise and went on to earn more than $1 billion at the box office. And sadly, Megan wasn't a part of it. Her character Michaela was written out and she was instead replaced by Rosie Huntington-Whiteley as Sam's new love interest Carly. It turns out that Megan was fired from Transformers Dark of the Moon during production after she compared Michael Bay to Hitler and called him a nightmare to work with in an interview with Wonderland. From that point on, there were conflicting reports over whose decision it was and why it was made, but it wasn't until 2011 that Bay confessed that it was actually Steven Spielberg who told him to fire her after she made those controversial comments. In fact, after she was fired from Dark of the Moon, Megan stopped appearing in bigger movies altogether, but has since repaired her relationship with Bay and even went on to star in 2 of his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. Number 5. Samantha Morton. She was originally cast in the voice-only role of Samantha, an operation system that falls in love with the lonely divorced man played by Joaquin Phoenix, in the 2013 movie Her. Although the plot itself may sound a little bit crazy, the film sells the central romance beautifully and was very well received by critics, earning a huge 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Samantha Morton was not only confirmed for the part, but she actually completed all of her character's filming for the movie, only to ultimately lose the role to Scarlett Johansson. So what went wrong? Well, the director Spike Jonze said, quote, "Samantha was with us on set and was amazing. It was only in post-production when we started editing that we realized what the movie needed was different from what Samantha and I had created together. So we recast." Which is kind of sad, but Morton took it all in stride. The British actress told Vanity Fair, "If you listen to my voice and you listen to Scarlett's voice, they're just completely different flowers." And while she was disappointed not to attend the film's premiere, she confirmed that there was no bad feelings whatsoever and was actually thrilled that the project did so well. Number 4. Johnny Depp. The Pirates of the Caribbean actor played the villain in 2 of the previous Fantastic Beasts movies, but Johnny Depp was actually fired from the 3rd installment of the franchise, The Secrets of Dumbledore, and replaced by Danish actor Mads Mikkelsen. So what happened? Well, in November of 2020, Depp revealed via social media that Warner Brothers had asked him to exit the franchise after filming only 1 scene. The reason being is that his legal battle with his ex-wife Amber Heard had gone viral and he had just lost his libel case against The Sun after the publication called him a wife beater. In general, 2020 was a terrible year for Depp as the public really started to turn against him and the studio felt it would greatly affect their sales to keep him in the film. So the role of Gellert Grindelwald was henceforth played by Casino Royale star Mikkelsen. The funny thing is that Depp still walked away with his $16 million salary thanks to a pay-or-play contract, so Warner Brothers was stuck footing the bill either way, and the studio's decision to cut him out of the movie didn't even pay off, considering that the 3rd film ended up performing even worse at the box office than the first 2. Number 3. Stuart Townsend. Back in 2000, the Irish actor was a rising star with the kind of buzz that comes from having raw talent and a relationship with Charlize Theron, so it made sense that Stuart Townsend would land a breakout role in one of the most acclaimed and successful movie trilogies of all time, Lord of the Rings. At 27 years old, Townsend nabbed the part of Aragorn, the future king of Gondor, and went through months of rigorous training just to be fired 1 day before filming was due to commence. It was director Peter Jackson who quickly decided that the actor was far too young to pull off the character, and Townsend was replaced by Viggo Mortensen, who is 14 years his senior. Now, the Lord of the Rings trilogy itself was always a monumental undertaking and a huge gamble for Jackson, so with all the moving parts to consider, the decision obviously paid off in the end, as the film might not have been so successful if one of the key roles hadn't been replaced. But of course, it would have been a major setback for Townsend, considering how much he put into what would have been the role of a lifetime for him, especially considering that he hasn't been able to obtain such a big part in a franchise since. Number 2. James Remar. Director James Cameron's movie Aliens originally cast James Remar as Hicks, but the sequel replaced the troubled star all because of his on-set behavior. When Aliens began production, James had the role of Corporal Hicks and had a darker take on the role. However, several unfortunate incidents resulted in the actor eventually being replaced by Michael Biehn after about a month or so of filming. The reason being is that James was reportedly very difficult on set, including a time when he allegedly brought live ammunition on set and blew a hole in a neighboring set that was for the Little Shop of Horrors. But the decision to remove James was final after he was busted for possession. Unfortunately for the filmmakers, some of Hicks' scenes had already been shot, resulting in reshoots reshoots and clever editing to insert Michael as a replacement take on the role. Yet this was all kept a secret for years from fans and the crew of Aliens, as all they knew was that James was simply gone one day without explanation, with Michael standing in his place. And coming in at number 1, Eric Stoltz. Right from the beginning, the filmmakers behind Back to the Future wanted to cast Michael J. Fox in the lead role of Marty McFly. The only problem was that Michael was tied up with shooting his hit TV show Family Ties, which was a massive scheduling conflict. So they went with Eric Stoltz instead. It would have been a life-changing role for the youngster, but according to IndieWire, director Robert Zemeckis and producer Steven Spielberg realized weeks into production that Eric wasn't getting many laughs in the rough cuts of the film. So in a series of really awkward maneuvers, they came up with a plan to fire him and bring in their original choice in order to save the film. But according to the 2015 book We Don't Need Roads, the making of the Back to the Future trilogy, it explains that Eric also had some pretty demanding on-set behavior and allegedly required everyone on set to refer to him as Marty. In fact, the book alleges that by the time he was fired, some of the cast and crew members actually seemed relieved. Whatever the case, recasting Eric ultimately proved to be a really good business decision, considering that the film went on to gross over $200 million. Well, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.